Good afternoon to everybody here at the Physiotherapy Matters podcast, Chewing It Over. I am Leanne Antoine, your guest host every second Tuesday of the month. And I hope that you look forward to hearing from me as much as I look forward to being here. I try to use the show every time I'm on as an opportunity to raise the visibility of some brilliant physiotherapists that are out there just doing their thing. And I also use the opportunity to talk about topical matters or things that I think are important and valid to discuss. Today, I am joined by the lovely Hannah Oladugba of the African Caribbean Physiotherapy Network. I am very excited to have her on. She is one half of the ACPT network. And I'm sure most of you will know that in 2021, it was, identified or revealed that only 1.9% of chartered physiotherapists are Black. And it's a conversation that I enter in with a lot of people in the physiotherapy industry, regardless of colour. So I seem to have a lot of conversations in and around this as a topic. And I'm sure you can imagine that this is something that's quite important to me, but not just now. It's been important to me for a very long time. And so I hope that you enjoy the conversations that I'm about to have with Hannah. But also, if you have any questions directly for me or for Hannah, please check out the bio for this podcast, and you're welcome to reach out to myself or her if you've got any additional questions. You'll notice I'm not in anything purple today. I'm wearing grey. I'm not hands-on today, which is always seems a little bit odd to be doing something different, but variety is the spice of life. And actually, as skill sets go, physio gives you the scope to do so many other things. So I'm out there exploring those. So without further ado, I'm about to bring Hannah to the floor, to the stage, and I hope you will join me in welcoming her.
Hello.
Hi, Hannah. Thank you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like I've wanted to have you or Esther on the show for some time, so I'm really pleased that we've had this opportunity.
Yeah.
Can we start by just asking you to say who you are, what you do, where you work, if you're happy to share all of that, and then let's take it from there?
Okay, perfect. So I am a co-founder with Esther for ACPT Network, which is the African Caribbean Network. You said I'm one half, but I think we usually say that we're a part of an extensive network of people. So oftentimes you don't always see our faces because we try and promote everybody else in their business. So yeah, we're part of a big network. And so starting off with me, my name is Hannah Oladugba. Thank you for pronouncing my name so well. It's the little things. So I am a physiotherapist. I've been a physiotherapist since I think 2019 or just before.
Yeah.
I'm still a babe. I'm still a little girl in the industry, but I am a pediatric physiotherapist. I've been a pediatric physiotherapist from when I started. I knew what I was going to do, and I also do orthopedic physiotherapy as well on the side. So in terms of work, I work in a couple of places. Let me just put it that way. So yeah, I love what I do. I definitely want to do more in terms of pediatric physiotherapy, but that will come with time. I think that's essentially me. I love music, I love art, I love poetry, and like you said, variety is truly the spice of life. So because you can tell, blue hair. I love a little bit of difference. I love a little bit of change, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's me. And Esther's also one of our like my co-founder. She's a physio, an amazing physio. She specializes in neuro physiotherapy, and yeah, she does what she does as well. In terms of ACPT, do you want me to go into that?
Yeah, tell us.
So African Caribbean Physiotherapy Network. It's a mouthful, isn't it?
Isn't it ACPT?
It was founded off the basis. So me and Esther met I was a locum physiotherapist.
Okay.
No, actually, I was waiting for my registration. Actually, okay. So she was a physiotherapist, and I was a PTA. And I saw her, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's a black female. I just didn't realize how much of a moment that was, because I had studied, done placements, and I had never met a black female physiotherapist. So I looked at her, I was like, she's not a PTA, like she's definitely qualified. Like, oh my gosh, it just didn't I didn't realize how much it would resonate with me. And so with time we met up and we spoke, and then at that time I was looking for roles, and it was really hard actually because I didn't have anybody in my family actually in healthcare, in my intimate family in healthcare, and especially not physio, or anything of the sort, like sports day, like nothing around that. So I was really struggling in terms of getting a role, or saying the right things, knowing how to apply. And she sat down with me and she's like, actually somebody who was older than me in physio, and that she met through somebody else, taught her these skills. And so I sat there with her.
Person black?
Yes. And she was like, yeah, I'm giving this to you. Like, you're fine. You're going to get a role. Just apply. We sat down with going through the STAR technique, all these things that I just didn't know about, all the buzzwords. And so I sat there, I was like within not even a month, I had a role. And then we met up afterwards because I was leaving and she had a hard day. So we went to a restaurant. I was like, do you know what, we're going to the same train. So actually, you know what? Let's get off at Stratford and let's go to it was Gourmet Burger Kitchen, I think, GBK. Went there and we sat down and we just she had such a tough day, and it was she knew it was because of her race as well. She knew it's because she was black. And we sat down and we're like, do you know what? It's so weird how hard it is to be a physio. Like, it's hard regardless, but in a space where, like you said, 1.9%. We weren't going to work with the other 1.9%, generally speaking. It was just going to be us in our spaces, right? And she was so frustrated, and we sat down and we're like, why is it so hard for us? And went back to the fact that I found it hard. Most of my colleagues, when I did my master's, had a role before they left university. I was like, and they usually had somebody that they knew. I am so sorry. I did not know that my next door neighbor will be doing works right now.
It's all right, don't worry about it. This is live.
That shocks me. If it's loud, let me know. No, and so we sat there and was like, what can we do to make it a change? Because obviously this isn't an issue just for us. And we just wanted to create a network that allowed us to have even standing with our counterparts. So what that meant for me, from my point of view, was that I want my colleagues to know how to apply for jobs, and they shouldn't be exempt from that because they don't have family in it or because they're black, And then for her, she just wanted a space where people can discuss how to deal with conflicts without feeling like they were aggressive or painted in or had the support at least to know I can raise my concerns without being penalized, so to speak. And so it really budded from that. We're like, we want a network where we can be given afforded opportunities that our colleagues have, but within our own community. And then the last part was also raising awareness within our community of what physio meant, because a lot of people were like, oh, you massage. And I was like, no, that's not what I do. So yeah, that's really how it started.
I love it. I mean, I'm always, whenever I'm doing these shows, I'm constantly picking up things that people are telling me that I think are useful for the audience to hear and know. So obviously this is my perception, but I also recognize that other people will be thinking about other things that you've said. So I called you one half and you said you're a co-founder and you like to think of it probably more as a collective. And I appreciate and love that as a vision. But for me, it makes both you and Esther the unsung heroes of what you have built. And I also think that another really interesting thing is that ACPT was founded before the pandemic. So the two of you being insightful enough to recognize that there is this issue with, number one, Black physiotherapists struggling to get a job or perceiving that they're struggling to get a job, not having the inside knowledge or even family members that might be able to guide them on a path. Because there's that whole thing, isn't it? It's about who you know, or is it who you know or what you know, right?
Yes.
That a lot of your other colleagues already had positions.
Yeah.
And in that situation, those colleagues who have already got positions, are they even considering that you don't have a position potentially because you're Black? Is that coming across their head? Is it correct to think that you don't have a position because you're Black? And what are the issues that surround that?
Yeah.
As time has evolved and we're seeing more networks evolve in this space in terms of, and I'm going to use it as Black people, as physios, creating separate groups. My worry is that there will still be this element of division. You know, even if we brought all the Black chartered physiotherapists in the UK together, we would still, it would still be so few, you know, in respective to the rest of the population of physiotherapy. And my vision has been one that I think is so much more collective than that. But I know that in our conversations before, we're speaking about what these groups feel are their purpose.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, I don't feel like many of the purposes are all that different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I credit you and Esther for building something, even before, like you said, before the pandemic, because I know that 15 odd years ago, even when I knew I was the minority, I wouldn't have had the guts to have set something up like this. I don't think, I mean, social media wasn't such a big thing at the time.
Yeah.
But I say now in 2022, where the narrative behind so much of this has changed, it's almost so much more acceptable to have groups like this, you know? And I wonder, for those of us that have, you know, for example, Melrose Stewart, who was digging her heels in and was digging her heels in for a very long time.
Ridiculously long time.
On the show, because I know she's spoken to Jack before, to see what she thinks about this when she's made that transition from her lecturing, you know, so much of her hard work, so much of potentially her sacrifice, so much of her efforts to do what she has done. And I wonder whether she feels like, has that been worth it? You know, was it worth it? Does she feel like we're where we should be, or has it taken all her career to feel like those efforts have been worth it? But anyway, that's obviously, I've got to have her.
And just speaking about Melrose, because Melrose was one of the first Black physiotherapists that we credited on our page. Like, we wanted to do our Black history in terms of like, what does Black history in physiotherapy look like? And one of the only people we can find was Melrose. So, I mean, she's not credited enough for her work, and I definitely know that's because she's Black. And I genuinely, like, well, my opinion is that because she's Black. She's amazing. What she's done is groundbreaking, and it's a shame that she's the only person that we can look back in our physio history specifically and look back and say she's done this and this. So in terms of that, I think that's amazing. All credit to her. The fact that she has been like, it's easy to find stuff on her. We can find like a lot of her work. We credited her. We genuinely love her. Like, we respect her so. Like, whenever we think about somebody who praise, Melrose, if you watch this, we love you so much. Esther and I just can't stop raving about what you've done and the doors that you've opened. So if you ever feel like what you've done is not enough, you have done more than collectives could have done. So just so, because you mentioned her and we love her.
And just touching on that point, because we were talking about her potentially not being credited enough, and is that because she's Black? I think it's very difficult, and I say this from, you know, my truth, that how does a group of people credit someone if they don't recognize? Do you understand what I'm saying? So if I am a white person looking at this Black person's efforts and their achievements and what she's doing, am I just saying congratulations for what you've done without having an awareness of what else this means for Black people within physiotherapy?
I think I want to clarify something as well, because when we say it's because we're Black, we're not just talking about entities of Black, like my Black skin. We're talking about what it means for systems coming up as well. So I'm Black, but often that means where I come from is a harder background. Not all, but generally speaking. You think about systems of education where it is hard for Black people to really thrive in, like, there's research around that as well, for Black people, young Black people, to thrive in education and how it's not tailored to them. If you look at our background as well, and then if you look at physiotherapy as a program, and I know the medics, I forgot what they're called. They have the book for Black people and what presentation, what
presentation will look like on a Black person.
Yeah, so we're not inherently like you're not saying, because that my colleague's Black, like I'm not being racist to them, so like there's no racism. It's saying actually the whole system doesn't accommodate us as it should. So if I look at my physiotherapy book, I generally won't see a Black person in it.
Correct.
I won't be addressing conditions that are tailored, that typically affects Black people. If you think, and I genuinely feel like there's a place for physiotherapy and sickle cell. That discussion is so far away right now because even the medical side of things isn't addressed. So when we talk about because we're Black, it's because we're talking about systems as well, not just because you're not nice to us. That's not what I'm talking about. My colleagues are amazing to me, generally speaking. I'm talking about the whole system in place as well, just to clarify.
And I think what a beautiful point to clarify, and you're a very, very clever individual. When I've had lots of conversations with physiotherapists in this space, people have struggled with the very point that you raise. You know, I'm not racist, it's not me, etc., etc. It is talking about the system and not necessarily about the individual. And when I look at networks like yours, for example, and I have people like your good self on here, I'm doing the work that I'm doing to shed light, to raise visibility to our entire physio population, because I recognize that there are a lot of people doing such fantastic work, but in such a small space. And what I want to do is to empower our entire physiotherapy community so that they can empower the individuals that work for them. You know?
100%.
No one, you know, physios have a lot of responsibility all of the time. And one of the things we know, I think there's, you know, some evidence from Nespresso, and there's lots of evidence coming out about, you know, particularly around the factor of working from home and people staying in their jobs, like job retention, that people want to feel appreciated. People want to be told that they've done a good job. People want to feel valued, and they want that over pay rise.
Exactly. And I'll tell you this. So we also do other work behind the scenes as well. And we held interviews for King's. So we were part of panels for King's College. And one of the questions, actually, I can't say what they are.
No, you can't, because I've been on.
One of the questions is around race. And one thing that was highlighted to me was that a lot of people even coming into physiotherapy didn't consider the Black population as the workforce. So what this question was trying to address was that, you know, how do you view Black people? Let's just say it like that. And the big thing there was that a lot of people didn't even consider that Black people would be a part of the workforce. Forget physiotherapy, but healthcare as a whole. And so that's my thing in terms of, like, when we're talking about raising awareness, it's just really important to just say, actually, no, we're part of the CSP. Like, we are a part of this chartered body. So when we're raising awareness for ACPT, we're not just saying there's a select amount of Black people. We're saying, actually, no, there's a people in the CSP that require some support. And as the CSP should, and the HMCPC should, it's encouraged these people to be the best practicing things that they can be. And so that's what our thing is. It's more like saying there's a select people that require some support and require not, and it's even more than equality, it's equity. It's like, how can we place them in a position that they can actually look at and say, actually, we're really happy with this clinician and who they've become, because we're not limiting their finances. Because if we really think about the background and how many, I personally had to work through my master's. I worked hours to get through my master's, and a lot of people I heard the same, were people who couldn't finish their master's because of the finance, because of it. Like, how do we make sure that they're not limited in these areas just because of the system around it?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that touch a raw nerve there for me in terms of, you know, my own journey. You know, so when you speak about this, I funded my own master's program, and I funded my master's program just after I bought my own home. I was skint. Like, I had no money. And then on top of that, being diagnosed with dyslexia and dyspraxia after my first module. Okay.
Gosh.
And to me, that, in terms of that learning need as a Black person, that's a whole nother conversation. Okay. So we will come back to that.
Yeah.
Because I think there's so much more to explore in terms of that. Mm-hmm. But I recall being in a job, I won't say where I was doing my master's. I'm sure people want to follow my career journey. They can probably figure out where I was. But at that point, I was doing my master's, working a senior position. I really wanted the deputy post. And at the time, the deputy position was up for grabs. Mm-hmm. Now, I worked tooth and nail. And I have this conversation all the time about people who are trying to elevate themselves to the next level. Generally speaking, you will work at a level and be paid for that level. And it's your job to work above that, almost as though you're showing
that you can do it.
Management, that you could take that role.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be stepping into something that was completely new. Yeah. So I drove myself really hard to show what I could do. I managed reception. I was able to help to reduce costs in the department. I took on complex patients. I built a situation where I was present at consultant appointments. I wanted to try and build something that was seamless. And I still, after everything I had done and could put to paper and show figures, because the figures are, how, what's not measured is not weighed or valued, etc.
Yeah.
All of that whilst I was doing my master's, and still wasn't given the position. Now, a part of you could say, well, actually, maybe you just weren't good enough. But then to feel that they gave that position to someone who wasn't full-time, who wasn't there when the core staff was there, like, that was painful for me. Really painful, because it made me feel like it didn't matter what I did, I was never going to be good enough. And I said to you behind the scenes that some of the sacrifices that I think I have made in terms of being a Black female chartered physiotherapist, I make and have made some of those to pave a way for the people coming up, so that life, and I talk about life, not just your physiotherapy career, but life, the equity component of that, the equality component of that, could be just a little bit better for the people.
And that's our heart, right? Like, that's why, because we don't gain, we put a lot more money into this than we gain. And for us, it's more like, how do we, and one of the things at the beginning was that we have a lot of band fives here. We can't finish this year with a lot of band fives. Like, so the drive was, creating content on how to build your CPD, we've got people who are on, people on panels, we put out content, put out things so that people were not just applying for roles, but were saying, how do you actually be a band 6? Like, what quality, what skills do you need? And let us know what we can do to help you with that. How do we make sure that you can fulfill the criteria on an interview? Because that's what you really need to do. You need to be an interview. Doesn't matter what you've done realistically. Outside of that,
you get in the door.
You get in. How do you get into the door? How do you get? Because I'm outside and I want to get inside. So that's what we committed our time. And bearing in mind, we were band 5s.
Yeah. And that's, just very quickly, Ash James has said some really valuable conversation. Thank you both for sharing your own experience. And we know that Ash James is going to be head of education and part of the leadership team at the Chartered Society of Physio. So he's quite an interesting person to follow, because how his work helps with the growth of physiotherapy, I think, is going to be very, very important. But you're right. This door, the doors, there's more than one. The doors that need to be opened. And you said before we went on that you created ACPT as a means to level the playing field for Black physiotherapists with the rest of their colleagues.
We're not asking for more. And
I think it's very important for people who are listening to recognize that Black people are not asking for more. We just want it to be equal. The other thing that obviously also hits me is that you guys are talking about money that you've already spent, and you know, the fact that that's having to come out of your own pockets to do that. So if there is some way that people can make a contribution, a donation, please let me know.
Okay.
Because I would like to share that on my social media pages. And it might also be interesting for people who are listening to this now, if they feel like they want to get involved in some way, and even if they're not Black but want to have a conversation with
Yeah.
you, that is okay.
Yeah. We're more than happy. We've worked with other networks and charity bodies before as well, and it's been nice. It's been great to work with anybody really. We just want to make sure that we are equipping our network to be the best clinicians that they can be, and in turn the impact that it has on our community would be massive. Like, and it's a totally different conversation, but just the way we approach health and within our community will be greatly, like, I know people who are now working out because I lift weights. Like, just life impact and life changes come from the 1 and then the 2 and then the 4 and then the 8. And so for us, it's like, we're happy to work with anybody that is would want to do more school visits as well. And
that's my mandate for my council role. So I'm going into my first school this week. I'm really looking forward to that.
We go. I think we go in March. I think this year. We've done some in previous years as well. But yeah, so that's really our heart. So feel free to contact us, and we'll give the email to Leanne as well.
I love it, and I think that I mean, I'm looking at you with your blue hair and me with my afro, and you know, the amount of comments that I get from people just on the street, like, "Oh my God, your hair looks amazing," and like it's just refreshing to be able to express yourself without any fear of
I mean
yeah. You know what I mean.
It was a bold move that I made. When I first did my afro. I started doing afro when I was quite young. It wasn't popular then, and I had a lot of stick when I was in uni. And then this blue hair came last year, and I had my first day at my new job with blue hair, and I wanted to pass out. The anxiety was so overwhelming. I was like, isn't it unfair that I have to think so much into my hair when I'm stepping into work? Now my colleagues don't see me without blue hair, but it's not a fearless decision. Don't think that we make bold moves. And we founded ACPT being like, can we call it this?
Yes. Is like, this okay? How is my workplace going to see this? Are you going to be coming with some kind of conflict? Or
I hid it from my workplace, I'm not gonna lie, for a little while, and then I told my colleagues, and they're like so supportive in my past job. So it's not fearless moves. It actually takes so much to do this, and so when there is a backlash, it is quite hard, because you're like, it took so much to actually make this decision. Hair and network.
I love the fact that when you speak, you come from a place of abundance. And when we talk, and you said, you know, like Black people some have come from a poor environment, or where there's been a struggle, that is very easy to then live in a mindset that's full of lack. And maybe I don't speak about this just for Black people. This might be for people of color. It might be people, and people can lack in different ways. But I think if your overarching theme is that you lack, that lack follows you everywhere. So if your overarching theme is abundance, I think you can be abundant in everything. So I just want to thank you for such a brilliant show. I feel like we've spoken for half an hour, and I know you. If we went to school together, you'd be one of my best friends. So thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for joining me on such a great show, and one that I feel so heartfelt, and we've had such wonderful comments. Stephanie Land quoting on the fact that Dr. Melrose Stewart probably doesn't get enough credit. She is a legend. And I just want to thank the people that have commented. And like I said, if people do want to reach out to us, check out the bio. But I'm also very, very visible on social media. I will try and post my picture of me with blue hair and tag you in it. because we have shared that journey. But thank you so much for joining us. And who knows, I'm sure this is probably the start of some additional work for you and I to come together in the future.
Leanne, we love you so much. We appreciate you. We love how you supported us, Esther and I, and the ACPT network. And you do amazing work. And I just really hope that you got the strength to keep it going.
Yeah. Well, I'm potentially handing that back on over.
Wait for the reward, the tangible reward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, darling.
Bye.
Bye. Well, what can I say? An inspiring, empowering, sweet conversation with Hannah today. And if you do have the opportunity to share this with your colleagues, whether you're in the NHS, whether you work privately, whether you're a physio, OT, speech and language, dietetic, whatever you do, wherever you are, this conversation was valuable. And it was valuable in many, many ways. I am Leanne Antoine, your co-host here on Chewing It Over every second Tuesday of the month. And I will be back with some more very, very interesting conversation in the near future. Until then, I hope that you look after yourselves. And yeah, what more can I say? Take care.